Now, Brighton, listen up, buddy. It's one thing to go on a reality show and wear some amazing clothes. It's another to copy my style. I'm literally wearing the shirt that he was wearing this week in Perfect Match. The only difference is, well, I've had it for a little bit longer and I've actually buttoned it properly. He's got like 4 or 5 buttons. You know, he's kind of showing the chest meat. Not great. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real recap and review of Perfect Match Week 2. Oh man, Week 1 was dramatic. We covered episodes 1 through 6 right here on the channel, so if you didn't check it out, you might want to find that link in the description below, because it was really crazy. But, dare I say, this week is even crazier. And if you're already asking, well, when the heck does this show end? We have the finale that we'll cover right here on the channel next Friday morning, same time, same place, so you're not going to want to miss out. Hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, you guys, tap on that bell, like this video, and get loud in the comments below and let me know, why is YouTube being a little annoying and suppressing this video and this content? No, on a serious note, let me know in the comments if you're Team Kaz or Team Micah, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. And like we always do, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and lead with my spoiler-free thoughts before getting into my spoiler recap, and that's just in case you haven't watched episodes 7 through 9 just yet, so time codes are below. So let's begin, you guys, with my spoiler-free review. And I gotta say, this week's episodes are probably the best and the strongest run of episodes in Perfect Match's history. The drama is at an all-time high here, especially in episodes 8 and 9, where we begin to see some matches we thought were sure things crack. I love the build up to those matches sort of getting their biggest tests and facing their biggest tests, yet I don't think that some of the matches were ever going to make it all the way, but in their minds they believed they would. So all it took was Nick Lachey to walk in not wearing a robe but wearing clothes and saying, oh guys, let's bring in everyone. Felt like a Super Smash Brothers moment, you know, like everyone is here, but literally everybody showed up. And again, I won't spoil too much, but let's just say bringing a lot of singles into one house in Mexico with matches who you thought were sure things can shake a lot of relationships up. I thought it was a really good idea by the producers to throw these curveballs, and after week 1, it really felt like there needed to be a change up in a lot of these matches. Things were beginning to get stale. A lot of matches needed to be sort of stirred up, and that happened, especially in episode 9. And guys, the music was surprisingly not noticeably bad this week. Hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. Because last week we talked about this song that said, roll up to the spot, burrito. Well, looks like that taco left the station because we are clear of any of those lyrics. This week is actually not bad. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, is it actually adding to the suspense? It's a Christmas miracle in June. But I am just really hoping the finale sticks the landing, because after this week's run of episodes, it was just 7, 8, and 9, only 3 episodes versus 6 the first week. It was strong. And I'm starting to believe that the finale will be a lot of fireworks, and you won't see a lot of calm moments between our perfect matches, although I know who's going to win. I say that because I have a good guess. I haven't watched the finale yet, but I do believe I know who's going to win. So I think this is a good time because I wanted to say so much and I can't in the spoiler-free section. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, save this video to your watch later list, and come back when you've watched episodes 7 through 9, because right now it's time to get into my spoiler recap. So this is your one and only warning. Okay, so it's time. Let me make sure I'm buttoned up, unlike Brian. So we begin episode 7 with a continuation of last week's cliffhanger ending. Now, if you need a little recap, here are our latest matches. We have Chris and Tolu, we have Justin and Elise, we have Stevan and Alara, the strongest couple clearly, and then we have Harry and Jessica, who they're very interesting. And then we were left this episode, episode 7, wondering what's the fate going to be for Kaz and Micah. Well, I guess to no one's surprise, they end up matching. But I will say, I'm a little cautiously optimistic for them, because the way Micah's moving, she ain't serious, y'all. And I do think that the cracks in their relationships are beginning to, let's say, break the foundation and kind of split it in half. They're not looking good. So who was sent home? Well, of course, it's Cloud Chaser number 1 and Cloud Chaser number 2, Melinda and Holly. Now, it seems that Stevan and Alara's strategy when they were in the boardroom to bring in Holly to disrupt Kaz and Micah's relationship and Melinda to disrupt, gosh, I can't even remember who she went on a date with. What was it? Chris? I don't know. I think it was. I don't necessarily think it was a good idea. Nobody's strategy in the boardroom has really paid off. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. And then Melinda and Holly give some testimonials that were so forced, and they really tried to break down Kaz and Chris, and I don't love that because guess what, you guys? Y'all weren't on the show for more than a day, so let's not play these games. Instead, let's focus ahead because we have 9 days left until the perfect match. So we get, of course, a compatibility challenge, and now this one is... It doesn't start off on a good note for the couples. Before the game even began, Nick Lachey comes in with his messy self and asks who the couples believe the weakest match is. That's like screaming bomb on an airplane. I'm not saying I'll never do that, but that's like the equivalent of doing that with these couples. Come on, they're hyper reactive. So here's how some of the contestants answered Nick Lachey's question of who the weakest match is. Micah says Elise and Justin. And of course Micah's gonna say that because Elise and Micah are like Team Green and Team Black in House of the Dragon. They don't like each other, okay? They're not friends. And then Elise says, well, you know what? I'm gonna counter that and say, actually, Micah, it's you and Kaz. And then Chris and Harry come out the woodwork and they're just like, oi, I agree. And I'm like, alrighty, what are we doing here, okay? Why are we ganging up on each other like this? But... and I'll get to this. It leads me to believe that this is a house divided. Okay, so back to the compatibility challenge. The name of the game is one person is blindfolded and the other in the relationship is a guide to then untangle the rope that they're attached to. They each have a color coordinated rope. And if you didn't think that it was messy in the house, it's messy in this game because a lot of them just either 1, don't have good hand-eye coordination, 2, they can't follow directions, or 3, they can't give good directions. So yeah, the most unlikely couple I think does win this one though, Kaz and Micah. And I say that after having watched the episodes, right, 7 through 9, and I think to myself, how in the world did they win this? But this was probably the last glimpse that we'll get at them having good communication. But yes, Kaz and Micah win. I believe this is their second compatibility challenge that they've won. The first one I believe they won on a salsa date, and this one, well, they're going on a date we've already become accustomed to, guys. Kaz and Micah go to a waterfall, and if that looks familiar, because it is, we saw Stevan and Alara go on their date at the waterfall too. So, man, I guess they're running out of budget, just a little bit. During their conversation, it's short, but we do get some glimpses into where they're at currently in their headspace together. Micah is scared of losing Kaz, and she says she's feeling like it's becoming very real for her at the same time. Make up your mind, girl, because are you scared of losing Kaz because maybe there are other women in the house, which ultimately becomes the truth? Or are you scared of losing Kaz because you're going to self-sabotage because it's getting real? So figure it out, Micah, figure it out. And then Kaz replies and says, hey, I feel there's potential to grow outside of the house. However, he precedes that statement with an So when Micah asks, do you see like a future here? He's like, I think there's potential. It's like, bro, you are not confident. And I'm not confident in that answer either. So now that we're done with Kaz and Micah's date, let's check in with our matches. And we begin with Harry leaving love notes in his and Jessica's room. And you would think, oh my gosh, Harry's turning over a new fake leaf. But no, Harry's actually leaving notes that you would expect Harry to leave on their bed. Notes that say things like this, and I quote, I'd drink your bath water. Okay, and then other notes on the bed. I'm not going to read them because they're very inappropriate, but let's just say I don't think Jessica was completely flattered. Unless she was, because she didn't make a mention about like using a straw for the bathwater note, like, ugh, gross. And then Harry said, let's make this even weirder, because in his testimonial interview, he said that he wants to do a blood ritual with Jessica. 1, that's weird. 2, I rebuke that in Jesus' name, because no, Harry, no. To me, Harry seems really immature in this moment, but Jessica's eating all of this up and says, "I adore you, Harry." And then Jessica adds, "I want to do more than kiss you, Harry." And y'all know what that means. If I have to spell it out for you, no, I'm not doing that. But Harry and Jessica, most likely at this point, they've done a lot more than just sleep with their backs to one another. Yeah. So now it's time to transition to the boardroom moment with Kaz and Micah, but there's a twist. Nick Lachey comes in and says there are co-ed singles for them to choose from, not just either all women or all men. And isn't that crazy? Well, it was exciting until we saw Trevor on the board again. So annoying. But this is where I feel like the house becomes divided into teams. You have Kaz and Micah teaming up with Chris and Tolu versus Alara and Stevan, and Elise and Justin. At least that's how it was at this moment, because in the boardroom they're playing those sides and they're trying to bring in singles to ruin one or the other's relationship. So, I mean, I never thought it would get to this, but it makes things spicier. But you know what's not spicy? The fact that they even thought of bringing in Trevor for Jessica. How are they out of their mind? You're going to bring in the not-so-incredible Hulk to date Jessica, who clearly, they're not compatible. They're not simpatico, you guys. I'm sorry. They don't got it. And you could tell that by the board, let alone what happened in Love is Blind, where Trevor went in with a pre-existing relationship, which they addressed this week too. But ultimately, Kaz and Micah bring in Britton to date Stevan, and then they bring in Nigel to date Alara. So let's get into Nigel and Alara's date. Now, if you remember in week 1, Alara was back and forth between Stevan and Dom because she likes tall, dark men, according to her. So Alara said, "Nigel's my type." And she keeps alluding to the fact that she's like physically attracted to him, but ultimately their date goes nowhere, and neither does their conversation. So let's get into Britton and Stevan's date instead and see if there's anything there. Well, Stevan said Britton's his type and kept alluding to keeping his options open earlier in a conversation with Alara before leaving the house. So it leads me to believe that Stevan is probably the wild child in this equation and is going to try and go after Britton in a weird way. I assumed he would based on his track record, but I guess even I would be wrong in this situation. Because, and now it's time to get into the mixer moment, Stevan reveals to Alara that, hey, I kissed Britton. But then 2 seconds later, he reveals that he was joking. But when I tell you that my jaw hit the ground thinking that he actually did kiss Britton, I was shocked. Immediately, I was about to say, Alara, you better leave that man. And it didn't happen. Stevan's joking. He didn't kiss Britton and said he's just like, just match with me, Alara. I love you. Because he is smitten by Alara. Speaking of smitten by their partner, Harry. Well, Harry keeps saying, Jess, you're marked, you're mine. And it is very weird behavior. He's almost afraid to lose her. And I don't know. That to me spells he's a little insecure in the relationship. However, I think it's more so about his own insecurities, because do I think he's trying to make an effort to be different and change? Yes. Do I think that he has tendencies that he still can't overcome? Absolutely, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But yeah, weird behavior. When you're marking somebody, no, okay. The only thing I'm marked by is the blood of Jesus. Okay, let's move on. So Kaz is an interesting subject in this moment too, because he has a conversation with Britton, and I'm starting to think, is Kaz exploring his options? Until that conversation goes right into the gutter, because he's telling Britton, I don't know where Hawaii is. You don't know where Hawaii is? Like, come on, bro. Between him and Harry last week with not knowing Africa, this is getting ridiculous. We need a geography compatibility challenge at this point. But here's where things get interesting. Britton said that Kaz didn't tell her that he's matched with Micah. But Kaz told Micah he mentioned that he's matched to Britton. Red flag? I don't know. What are we waving, guys? A red flag here? Because something's not clicking here. And speaking of messy boots, we have Elise, who is being incredibly snakish by encouraging Nigel and Britton to go and destroy relationships. So things are being shaken up. And eventually, Kaz and Micah have a conversation, right? And their conversation keeps getting interrupted by this frog, and it is hilarious. Like, I thought that was the funniest moment of the entire week, where this frog just continues to make this very serious conversation unserious. But then Britain, on orders of her queen Elise, tries to interrupt Kaz and Micah's conversation. And then Kaz addresses the house and says, guys, I've had enough. I'm upset at you, Elise, and I'm upset about everything that's going on because you all are trying to ruin my match with Micah. And you know what? I ain't gonna lie to you guys. I do think that the house is against Kaz and Micah. And I do think Kaz also has room to be upset because it does feel like the house is out to get him. Are they the weakest match? No, because it's Elise and Justin at this point, but they're trying to get after Kaz and Micah because I think they are a threat to becoming possibly the strongest in terms of strategy. So at the end of this mixer moment, we get back to Harry and Jessica. And Harry says, Jessica, I'm falling in love with you. Harry, falling in love? I never thought we'd see the day, but here we are. And then Jessica says, my heart is telling me that Harry is my husband. Oh, man. Listen, if you like it, I love it, I guess. I don't know, Jessica. How? So before we get to the next morning, we got to talk about our current new matches, and that is Alara and Stevan, Justin and Elise, Jessica and Harry, Chris and Tolu, and Micah and Kaz. So who went home? Of course, the two singles that were brought into the house, Britain and Nigel. And that should surprise nobody, because none of these new singles that have come in outside of Alara have really lasted long. So we've got 6 days left now until the perfect match. So what does Nick Lachey do? Well, he announces we're going to have a boys' day and a girls' day. And at both of these gatherings, you're going to have, at boys' day, all of the single women come in, including some new contestants. And at girls' day, you're going to have all the single men come back, including some new contestants. So yes, Izzy's coming back. So let's begin with the girls' day, which to me was probably the less exciting day of the two. Listen, I love the editing this season because they are so messy, especially with the subtitles of the contestants. Trevor's subtitle was Trevor, single when convenient. I just about fell out of my chair. Trevor said in his testimonial interview that he's here as a new man who's here to redeem himself. If I had a meter that described who's lying, it would be pointing right towards Trevor. Stop it, Trevor. Stop it. So we go to Micah, and Micah says to another guy that she can't trust Kaz as far as she can throw him, which is weird because this is probably the first time we've heard Micah express such distrust and disdain for Kaz. And she's saying this, I believe, in this moment to Brian, which is odd. And speaking of Brian, listen, this man is so cocky because he's trying to get under the skin of all these women, and he tells Elise straight up, hey, your match with Justin is boring. So Brian is doing what Brian did in week 1 of Perfect Match, where he's just playing the game. He's not here for a connection. He wants to just stick around. So he's trying to poke and prod at all these relationships he believes are weak. So Micah's kind of flipping out at this point because she understands that, oh my gosh, maybe Kaz isn't for me, and if this is happening with us, all the girls are with Kaz, and I can't trust him. So Tolu says, girl, wait. I encourage you to then go and talk to the other guys. If you feel this way now, what's going to change when you get back to the house? So Micah takes her advice and speaks with Izzy. Come on. And there was so much shaky cam in this moment too, you guys. I don't know if it was just me. Maybe I was shaking my head. But there was a lot of shaky cam, and I guess it was an adequate representation of Kaz and Micah's relationship. Incredibly shaky. And then we end the girls' day with Brighton telling Micah, hey, I think Kaz is actually interested in exploring something new, and that's because I heard it from one of the dudes in the house. He's planting seeds of discord, and that ain't cool, y'all. Not at all. So now let's go to the boys' day, because this is the catalyst for all the drama that happened in episodes 8 and episodes 9. I don't know, I'm counting with my fingers. So at boys' day, they all get a drink and they're all kicking off the day together. And then you hear Chris's dumb self say, cheers to being single. Now correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm 99.9% sure that it was Chris who said cheers to being single. Tolu, I hope you're not still with this dude in week 3. Yeah, in week 3. So everyone's getting a drinky drink and the tequila's flowing, and Harry ends up doing what we all expected Harry to do, which is act out of pocket, because he took a body shot off of Melinda. Oh my gosh. Yet in his testimonial says, I've only got eyes for Jessica. Are we not seeing the same thing here, Harry? What are you doing? So then we cut to Chris talking with another woman saying, hey, I don't think my relationship with Tolu is as strong as I thought it was. And he's very much interested in Xanthi. However, she's not interested in him. And we're going to learn very, very quickly that Xanthi is, let's just say, she's got a lot of secrets up here that she so desperately wants to spill out. And then we go back to the wild children, Harry and Melinda. Harry's sitting down, and then Melinda sits on Harry's lap. And if I'm Harry, I'm disgusted. Thank God I'm not Harry. But if Harry truly loves Jessica and wants to be a good example to Autumn, Jessica's daughter, if a girl that clearly wants to ruin your relationship sits on your lap, wouldn't you immediately get up? Instead, no. He lets it happen. And just when you thought the drama was at an all-time high in this moment, we hear Holly, Cloud Chaser number 2, tell everyone, hey, I saw Harry and Melinda kiss. And I found it funny that the camera panned to Justin, and Justin immediately said, I didn't see anything. I don't think he did, but none of the guys were saying that Harry kissed Melinda. Only Holly and Melinda were claiming this. So at this moment, I'm tripping here, y'all. I'm like, are you kidding me, Harry? Are we really going back to your old self? But then Harry says, Melinda, you're making it up. We did not kiss. But then Melinda says, well, hey, I'm just going to tell everyone else, like Xanthi, that we kissed. And what she's doing is spreading the rumor because the cameras didn't catch it. But I hope if they have a reunion, that they have footage of what might have happened. It'd be so great. But as of now, we didn't see any of that on camera. We didn't hear anything. There was nothing proving this, unless there is, and we just don't know it yet. But I'm almost inclined at this point to be like, you know what? I think Melinda's cloud chasing a little, but it is Harry we're talking about. And whether Melinda is lying or not, Harry should not have let himself be put in that position to be alone with Melinda. I mean, for goodness sakes, he even carries Melinda across these rocks because she has to use the restroom. I understand being chivalrous, but you're carrying someone across these rocks after you did a body shot off of them and you let them sit in your lap. Weird behavior, Harry. So of course, eventually all the guys and the girls and all of the singles are brought back to the house. So everyone at these boys and girls day, that they're at the house right now. So of course we got to have a conversation with Harry and Jessica because you already know, rumors are spreading. Harry reveals that he's been crying in the room alone because he believes he wasn't the best representation of Jessica and Autumn during the boys' day. Now part of me thinks, is this him admitting that he kissed Melinda and or said some out-of-pocket stuff to Melinda? He does reveal to Jessica, hey, I carried Melinda across the rocks, but the way he was teeing it up sounded like he was doing much more than that. Harry eventually apologizes to Jessica, and Jessica sounds like she's okay with him taking accountability, but he says, or she says, we're not fine, Harry. And it makes sense. I would feel like maybe I can't trust that dude either. Harry continues to reiterate to Jessica, this isn't the guy I want to be anymore. But with one test, I believe he folded. Come on, bro. So Harry's crying and Jessica hugs Harry at the end of their conversation, but things are not all sunshine and rainbows after this conversation. We'll get back to them. Now let's go to dramatic couple number 2, Kaz and Micah, because their conversation at the house was the beginning of the end for them. Micah reveals to Kaz, hey, I'm insecure in our relationship. And Kaz and Micah eventually have a longer conversation about how they don't have any trust with one another. But then Micah, in a surprise turn of events, says, okay, I have to apologize to you, Kaz. It's me, right? Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I am not open and honest about my feelings, and that's a disservice to you. So, are they good or are they bad? What a nightmare. Okay, so now it's time for my notes on the big perfect match mixer, and there are several funny faces made by the contestants during this moment. Literally all of the reactions are hilarious, but all the past contestants plus the new singles that we saw at the boys and the girls day, they're now in the house. So, as you know, things are going to explode. Now, before everything starts to go crazy, some of the couples sit down together and they speak, and Tolu jokingly says, hey, I think Kaz is ready to mingle, and Micah says, he sure is. And then Kaz is thinking, whoa, what the heck? Okay, why would you even make that comment? I'm sitting with you, next to you right now. And at this point, I'm like, listen, Kaz, Micah's not serious. Just let it be. And it's at this moment where I notice Brighton shows up to the house wearing my friend's clothing brand, Maverins. It's the Fruta Bamba t-shirt. You know, it's kind of fire. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. But I had it 3 years before him. I'm just saying. And once the contestants come in, Harry immediately runs to Melinda and asks, would you like to talk? And she says no. But in my mind, I'm thinking, why did he immediately go to her and ask for a chat? I think he's worried about what could come out. That's just me. So before we even get into the Melinda, Jessica, and Harry drama triangle, Christine says, hey, I had a good conversation with Kaz, because her and Kaz seem to have had some sort of physical chemistry at the boys' day. And when Christine said that in front of everybody, I had a good conversation with Kaz, he laughs out loud, like the awkward laugh, like, oh man, well, everyone got to know each other, is what he said. Homeboy, you really like Christine. And if you look closely, he's even giving Micah the hover hands on the couch. So awkward. Alrighty, well, now it's time for Melinda, Jessica, and Harry's drama. The girls sit at the table together, and it felt like the red wedding, because boy oh boy was Jessica and Melinda, were they going at it. Melinda tells Jessica that her and Harry kissed not just once, but multiple times, you guys. However, again, I find it hard to believe Melinda here. She just seems like she's been clout chasing this whole time, and her story's changing again? It just doesn't seem consistent here. But then I'm guessing Harry hears them going back at it, and Harry joins Melinda, Jessica, and the other girls at the table for a short period of time, because Melinda and Jessica begin to argue even more when Harry shows up. Jessica believes that Melinda should have been respectful and not made that claim about Harry publicly in front of the other girls. And I actually don't blame her. And you know what? If Melinda was telling the 100% truth, wouldn't she want to just pull Jessica aside? Instead, it feels like she's trying to make a spectacle of it all, which is exactly why I don't 100% believe Melinda here. And then eventually Melinda brought up that, hey, that's not all. I had a conversation with Harry about you and him having a future out of here. Do you possibly see it? And Harry told Melinda, apparently, no, because he laughed about it. So then before Harry leaves, he's like, listen, can I get one word in? Melinda, it was you who tried to kiss me on the cheek, and I denied you. Do I believe that too? Yeah, I do believe that. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I believe that Melinda tried to kiss Harry, because this is what Melinda has been doing in the house, which is, hey, I'm the disruptor. But now back to the mixer, and I hope you guys are keeping up, because it's about to go back and forth real fast. So Xanthi tells Tolu, hey, I think Chris was trying to poach me at Boys' Day. And she even goes as far as to say, hey, Tolu, you should switch up your match. Oh my gosh, why are you going to do this to Tolu? I feel bad for her, man. I feel bad for her the most in the house, okay? Because I think she genuinely was falling for Chris. So eventually Chris and Tolu have a conversation, to which Chris says, you know what, hold up here. I want to hear it from Xanthi's mouth. Bring her in. So he says, hello, Xanthi, and Xanthi shows up, and well, Xanthi just repeats the same thing and then says at one point, listen, Chris, if you're going to lie, I'm leaving. So, of course, Tolu is feeling shaken. Chris is talking in circles, and it seems like he's digging the biggest hole of his life here, to which then Tolu says, Chris, you need to just go be Chris then. And it sounds like she's done with him. But back to the Harry, Jessica, and Melinda drama, because Jessica and Harry have another little conversation, to which Jessica says, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here, Harry, so maybe she does love this man. Harry denies again that he kissed Melinda, and Jessica just says, okay, sure, but I'm going to still set you straight, because Harry, you are acting like a child right now, and you were acting like one before. And Harry admits, listen, I said something out of pocket too, so I'm like, dude, More and more of the truth keeps coming out, and it doesn't help you. Harry tells Jessica, listen, I might have spoke to Melinda and told her that you would look good pregnant. And I'm like, oh, Harry, what are we doing? And we will revisit this conversation soon. But first, back to the mixer, because, oh boy, this is where Kaz and Micah's relationship really just ends. Brighton pulls Kaz to the side and says, hey, look, Micah told me that you guys were the weakest couple. And of course, Kaz is upset and says, well, you know what? If Micah thinks that, I am going to go pursue somebody else. So he goes and finds Christine. Of course. He tells Christine, hey, you're my number one. And Kaz at this point, I think, is just completely done with Micah. So Micah has a conversation with, I think, another girl or two and says, hey, Kaz and I argue every day and he's a piece of... And I'm like, yo, this is bad. But it gets worse. They play a game of Flip Cup. And no, there's no water in there. You would hope, but no, there's not. And the loser has to kiss the match of their choice. Well, Kaz wasn't playing the game at the time, and Christine was one of the first losers, so she kisses Nigel, which is out of left field. And eventually, Nigel loses and kisses Tolu, which is also out of left field, but Tolu was all about that. I was like, okay now, girl. And then Kaz is the final loser when he rejoins the game, and he kisses Holly. What a mess. It's so chaotic. I thought he would go for Christine, but I guess not. So odd. But of course, Micah, who wasn't playing the game at all, sees Kaz kissing Holly and is upset. She's shocked and she is breaking down. But my question is, why are you so shocked, Micah, when you literally were just talking down about Kaz and your relationship to someone else? So if you think Kaz is a piece of junk, well, why are you shocked? So Izzy puts on his cape and says, hi, it's me, Micah's number one fan. He shows up and tells Micah, I got your back here. All right, bro. Izzy's like the most random NPC character to just show up and do whatever he does. I don't know about him. Alrighty, now back to Harry and Jessica's dramatic conversation. So Jessica's trying to find Harry, but Harry's currently got his head in a toilet because he's vomiting due to him being anxious over possibly losing Jessica. So Jessica's like, listen, I'm gonna let you get all that out your system, and I'm gonna go have a conversation with Melinda one-on-one. Melinda reveals to Jessica, well, listen, Harry told me some more things and told Jessica that Harry told her, I wanna do something to you. And he goes even further, according to Melinda, I don't just want to do something to you. I'm 30 years old and I'm ready for babies. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I literally said out loud, stop lying. Because Melinda, at this point, are you serious? This sounds so implausible. I don't know. This doesn't sound natural at all. But Harry did make that comment about Melinda's belly and whatnot, about her looking good pregnant. I don't know. This is weird now, huh? So we go back to the mixer one more time before we get back to Harry and Jessica. We have a conversation with Elise and Justin, and apparently Justin is telling Elise, I think there's a foundation for us to build on. But it's really messy in this moment because the editors are allowing us to hear a little bit of what Justin's saying, and then there's a dreamy sequence going on with some dumb music, to be honest. And it's Elise basically thinking about Brighton. Yeah, at this point, Elise is totally checked out. She even tells Justin, hey, I think we're going too deep too quickly. And yeah, man, I think they're done. Especially when Brighton tells Elise, hey, I was just gonna match with Micah simply to have a match. I'm looking at you, girl. So Elise takes that as an open invitation because she's like, already you want to match then? And then Brighton's, they match, which is crazy to me. So Elise has to go and now explain her decision to Justin, who is pretty upset. Justin is so upset that he walks away from her, doesn't give her the chance to explain, and says that he's going home. And I'm like, Elise, how do you feel about having the tables turned around on you? She is so adamant about, like, how dare that person do me wrong? I'm going to do them wrong. But then you do someone else wrong, and now you want to explain yourself? That's not how that works, girl. Like, you messed it up. So we get back to Micah, and she's, of course, crying. Izzy shows up, and Micah tells Izzy, I just want to be around someone I can feel comfortable with, whether it's romantic or not. And then Izzy says, me, you could do that with me. And they match. Just ridiculous. And then we cut to Tolu and Chris. They have a chat after Chris was literally crying, which, well, maybe he really does love Tolu. And lastly, Stevan and Alara. They prove once again that they are the strongest couple in the house. If they don't win this season of Perfect Match, I'm going to be shocked. And right before the end of episode 9, we're back to Harry and Jessica. They're having a conversation, and then the episode ends on a cliffhanger. And honestly, that conversation didn't sound good for Harry. I'll just say that much right now. So we'll know if they're still together next week. But currently, our matches as of the end of week 2 are Chris and Tolu, Stevan and Alara, Izzy and Micah, Christine and Kaz, because yes, they did match, and then Brighton and Elise. So we have technically 3 new matches right now. We have Izzy matching with Micah, Christine and Kaz, and then Brighton and Elise. So who gets sent home? Well, Justin. It's the odd one out. I do kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, I'm like, bro, Elise never really showed you that she was serious about you in the first place. And there you have it, you guys. That's my real recap and review of week 2 for Perfect Match Season 2. This was, again, the best week of episodes in Perfect Match's history, and I hope we get more drama like this in the finale because it was a lot of fun to watch. But let me know down below in the comments what you guys think about the current matches, and what do you think happens with Harry and Jessica? It's gonna be something special. The fireworks are gonna be fireworking in episode 10. And hey, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because same time, same place next week, we're talking about the finale. A huge thank you to Netflix for giving me the chance to review Perfect Match week to week. I really appreciate it, you guys, and God bless you all for your support in making these episode recaps some of the best content on the channel. And I love doing it. It's so much fun being able to have this conversation with you guys. Alrighty, y'all. Well, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Alrighty. Well, if I'm going to be like Brian, I guess I take one button up. Just kidding. The buttons are staying as they are.